rock and roll promised to live forever. The music did, the bodies did not. For decades, fans have filled arenas hoping to see the legends of their youth, only to watch something unexpectedly heartbreaking unfold on stage. A voice that barely resembles the one on the record, a performer struggling to reach the end of a set, a show quietly held together by backing tracks and sheer stubbornness. These are 10 rock icons whose best days on the road are genuinely behind them, whether due to serious health conditions, documented vocal collapse, or the simple, undeniable weight of time. If the music of these legends shaped your life, consider subscribing to The Rewind Road, where we cover the stories behind the rock era you actually lived through. Counting down from the most urgent case to a quieter, more bittersweet conclusion, here are 10 old rock stars who, by most honest measures, should never tour again. Number 10. Ozzy Osbourne. In the spring of 2019, Ozzy Osbourne fell at his California home and aggravated a previous neck injury so severely that his spinal cord was affected. What followed was a years-long medical ordeal that included multiple surgeries and a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, which Osbourne publicly confirmed in early 2020. His farewell tour, announced years before the fall, was postponed, then canceled, then restructured so many times that the concept of a farewell lost almost all meaning. At his peak, Osbourne was one of the most physically commanding performers in heavy metal, a man who built a decades-long solo career after being fired from Black Sabbath in 1979. That version of Ozzy was extraordinary, the man who now walks with difficulty and has acknowledged that his body may never allow a full live performance again, deserves to be remembered for what he built, not pushed on stage to prove something to an audience. His legacy is bulletproof. The touring chapter is done. Number 9. Paul Stanley.
Baby, I'm not fooling. I'm gonna stand, yeah.
For most of its 5-decade run, Kiss built its identity on spectacle and volume. Paul Stanley was the emotional center of that spectacle, a singer with a genuinely powerful voice and an almost theatrical commitment to giving the crowd everything he had. Then the voice started to go. By the mid-2000s, live recordings of Stanley were circulating among fans, and the gap between his studio sound and his concert performances had become difficult to ignore. He adopted a lower key on several songs and relied increasingly on backing vocals. Kiss completed what they called their end-of-the-road farewell tour, wrapping its final shows around 2023 and 2024. Those final performances drew mixed reviews. Longtime fans described the experience as emotional, but also plainly audible in its limitations. Stanley himself has spoken candidly about the wear that 5 decades of arena rock placed on his voice and his body. That honesty is worth respecting by not asking for more. Number 8. Axl Rose. By the time the Not in This Lifetime reunion tour launched in 2016, the story seemed improbable enough to be thrilling. Axl Rose, Slash, and Duff McKagan back on the same stage after more than 2 decades apart. The tour grossed an enormous amount of money, and early shows generated genuine excitement. But scattered throughout the run were performances that circulated online for all the wrong reasons. Pitch problems on some of Guns N' Roses' most iconic vocal moments. Passages delivered at the very edge of what Rose could reach. The voice that defined the late 1980s with appetite for destruction is a specific instrument, one built for a very specific register that time does not preserve kindly. Rose, now in his early 60s, has continued performing, and there are nights when flashes of that original power come through. But the gap between the recorded catalog and what a ticket buyer now reasonably hears live is wide enough to matter. Some recordings simply belong to a particular era of a human throat. Number 7. Steven Tyler. Aerosmith announced their Peace Out Farewell Tour in 2023 with the kind of bittersweet fanfare that tends to follow bands who have been saying goodbye for years. The tour was almost immediately interrupted when Tyler sustained a significant foot injury during rehearsals, requiring surgery and forcing the cancellation of dates. That injury came on top of a period during which Tyler had also been open about a relapse in his sobriety after a prescription pain medication situation following a prior procedure.
I could lie awake just to hear you breathing.
At his absolute peak in the 1970s, and again during Aerosmith's commercial resurrection in the late 1980s, Tyler was one of rock's most kinetic frontmen. The physicality of his performances was inseparable from what made them extraordinary. A voice that screamed, a body that never stopped moving. Both of those things require a physical foundation that, at 76 years old and following years of health complications, simply cannot be rebuilt for arena demands. The band has since indicated that Tyler's vocal cord damage may end the farewell tour permanently. Number 6. Roger Daltrey. For 50 years, The Who's touring identity rested on something that shouldn't have been possible. Roger Daltrey, screaming. Not singing in the conventional sense, but launching full-throated, lung-emptying screams on songs like Won't Get Fooled Again that most singers would refuse to attempt twice a week. He did it for decades. The toll. In recent years, Daltrey has been open about the impact of touring on his voice, describing a condition that causes his vocal cords to swell and sometimes bleed during sustained performances. He has canceled shows mid-tour and stepped away from the microphone during live broadcasts. The Who, now essentially Daltrey and Pete Townshend plus an orchestra, continues to perform. But the voice that made that catalog live is operating on borrowed time and diminished reserves. Daltrey built something irreplaceable. The honest tribute to that is to let it rest.
Won't you please? Won't you please?
Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from. Thousands of rock fans across the country tune in to the Rewind Rogue every week, and we would love to hear from you. Now back to the countdown. Number 5. Mick Jagger. In the spring of 2019, at the age of 75, Mick Jagger had heart valve surgery and returned to the Rolling Stones stage roughly 3 months later. That particular detail gets thrown around as evidence that Jagger is indestructible, and on a purely cardiovascular level, his recovery was remarkable. But what it actually illustrates is how far the machinery of a major rock tour has evolved to protect aging performers from their own ambitions.
Yeah, come on, baby, now you can't hold it together.
Jagger's current performances involve careful key management, shortened set sections, and a stage setup designed to minimize the physical extremes. He still moves in ways that genuinely surprise people. At 80 years old, that movement is its own kind of achievement. But the ragged, dangerous energy of the Stones in the 1970s, the sheer recklessness of early tours, that is gone and has been gone for a long time. There is a version of retirement that would let Mick Jagger exist in memory at his best. He has not chosen it, and the shows continue. But the argument for finally stopping grows louder every year. Number 4. David Lee Roth. There was a time when David Lee Roth was legitimately one of the most entertaining performers rock had ever produced. A high-kicking, wisecracking, genuinely charismatic frontman whose delivery of songs like Jump in Panama made Van Halen's arena rock feel both massive and fun. He reunited with the band in 2012 for a tour that went reasonably well by the standards of aging reunion runs. Then came a Las Vegas residency in 2020 that ended with what multiple audience members and reviewers described as one of the most confusing and difficult performances they had witnessed from a legacy artist. Roth, now in his late 60s, was singing far-off pitch across multiple songs, speaking in extended non-sequiturs between numbers, and moving without the physical surety that once defined him. He subsequently announced his retirement, then unretired, then performed again to similar reviews. The highs of the original catalog deserve a better final chapter than this one. Number 3. Ted Nugent. For much of the 1970s, Ted Nugent was among the loudest and most relentlessly physical guitarists on the American rock circuit. Cat Scratch Fever and Stranglehold were genuine radio staples. He built a reputation on high-volume, high-energy live shows that drew enormous crowds and left a real mark on hard rock. By the early 2020s, Nugent contracted a serious illness that he publicly described as nearly fatal. After recovering, he returned to performing, but the shows drew far smaller audiences than his peak years. Beyond the health concerns, Nugent's public statements over the years have significantly narrowed his audience to a specific and shrinking demographic. The combination of a diminished physical capacity, a voice well past its commercial prime, and a catalog that even sympathetic listeners describe as dated makes a compelling case for permanent retirement. What he contributed to American rock in the 1970s was real. The current live version serves neither the music nor the man. Number 2. Keith Richards. Still alive, still touring. Both of those things remain improbable. Keith Richards has survived decades of behavior that medical professionals consistently describe as incompatible with long-term survival. He is now in his early 80s. The Rolling Stones have continued as a functioning touring band, though the death of Charlie Watts in 2021 removed the member who, by many accounts, held the rhythm section together with the most consistency. Richards on stage today is a figure who seems to exist outside the normal rules of cause and effect. His guitar work, always idiosyncratic, now carries an unpredictability that reads differently depending on whether you are a devoted fan or a first-time attendee. The mythology of Keith Richards is enormous and entirely deserved. But there is something genuinely strange about watching a man in his 80s maintain a touring schedule. Not triumphant, not tragic, just quietly, unmistakably beyond what anybody should reasonably do at that age. Number 1. Bob Dylan.
He's not setting any alibi as he stares to the back.
By the 1980s, Bob Dylan had already permanently changed American music at least twice. His never-ending tour, which began in 1988, became one of the most discussed ongoing live projects in rock history, a relentless commitment to performance that has produced hundreds of shows a year across multiple decades. The idea behind it was noble and even poetic, that a song lives as long as someone plays it. What Dylan's shows have become in recent years is genuinely harder to characterize. Audiences routinely describe difficulty recognizing songs until well into the performance, because the arrangements and vocal phrasings have drifted so far from the originals. Dylan, now in his early 80s, sits at a piano for most sets, sings in a low, abraded voice, and plays versions of his catalog that feel more like private rituals than public performances. There is art in that, some would argue. There is also a case that the songs deserve to be heard, not decoded. Dylan's genius is not in question. Whether the road still serves that genius is an honest and fair thing to wonder.